All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I wanted to talk today about living from the heart. The reason that I chose this topic, other than the fact that I didn't have one requested, if you'd like me to talk about something particular next week, please let me know. But the name of my teacher was Daishin, which means great heart. My Dharma name Dainin means great patience. Anytime you hear Dai, D-A-I, it means great something. Sometimes it's T-A-I. Our founding teacher in this American lineage, Daishin Brighton Roshi, Taizan, great mountain. So Tai and Dai are interchangeable. Anyway, Daishin, great heart. The reason for this is that he passed away yesterday, so he's been on my mind. And those of you that have been here for a while know that this has been coming. And there was kind of a question as to whether I was going to go up there and say a final goodbye, which I did do. And I just thought that it might be a nice homage to him, and also it might be useful for all of you just to hear some stories, because he was someone who really embodied his Dharma name. Usually when you receive the precepts, which are the 16 ethical teachings that Zen Buddhists try to live by, you are given a name that you are encouraged to grow into. So for example, some of you know Mushin, who's one of my Dharma heirs and has taught here quite a bit. Anyone know what Mushin means? Mu means no in Japanese, so Mushin is no mind. Now you notice Daishin, great heart, Mushin, no mind. So what's going on with that word shin? That it means heart and mind. Well, you know how in English there's certain words that one word means two things? So shin means heart, mind. So it depends on how you are taking it. So in Mushin's case, no mind. In Daishin's case, great heart. I actually, from what I understand, I don't speak Japanese fluently by any stretch, but from what I understand, Dainin is come up with by combining great, strong mind. So nin means strong mind. They don't have a word for patience. So having a strong mind is how a Japanese person, from what I understand, would describe patience. Strong mind. I suppose also strong heart, since shin is interchangeable. And the great Dai, it's a little interesting, like one of the first teachers I encountered on a lineage was named Daido, not the singer. And he used to talk about how his name means great way, which kind of sounds like maybe a supermarket chain or something, you know? But in this context, great means boundless, like beyond comprehension, you know? Patience so great, so large, so it'd be like saying someone was a great man or a great woman or I had a great day, like indescribably good, indescribably fathomless, right? Great heart, big heart. A heart so big it covers the world. Daishin was a very, very cranky person. So this name Daishin was given to him by his teacher Jutsudo as a way to help him grow his heart and expand into that. In the same way, when I was given the name Dainin, I was a very impatient person. I think the person in here that's known me the longest is Ray. Would you describe me as a patient person?
Yes.
She hesitated. Why yes and why no?
Yes, because after a moment you can step back and see the situations for what it is. And
Right.
can come up.
Yes. I am by nature very impatient. I run hot, as Ray said. I'm very passionate. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of you play pickleball, and I play pickleball a lot, about 5 times a week, always with proper footwear. And I have developed a reputation amongst my pickleball group that I will make a lot of noise during a pickleball game. Usually unhappy noises when I make a mistake. And it's weird to me that that's weird, because I don't understand why everyone doesn't get upset when they make a mistake and go, ah, or whatever. But yes, I do run hot. But this practice has given me the pause that Ray spoke of, that I can step back. I'm actually very patient on a certain level. There's a sense of urgency, like when we were trying to get the permits for this room we're sitting in. There were deadlines, there were things that needed to get done, there's a sense of urgency. You don't want to be too patient, be like, oh, it'll work out, when you have to get things done. But at the same time, Red Mountain wouldn't have been here for 11 years without the patience of a lot of people, including the founder, the enigmatic, charismatic founder who sits before you. Anyway, we grow into our Dharma name. So Daishin was very cranky. He would get very annoyed with things that were not going the way he thought they should. However, he also was very warm and very funny, and he actually did have a really big heart. But it's when you receive your Dharma name, there's a teaching there around what your teacher wants you to aspire to, what your teacher wants you to become. So Jutsudo was very careful about that name. Great heart, grow into that name. And he did. The first time that I ever encountered him, I was 21 years old. Anyone in this room 21 years old? Nobody? 20? 22? Okay, so around you guys' age. And at the time I was practicing in Boulder with a teacher named Daishin Roshi, and I was working at a school, and the calendar for the school did not permit me to do the week-long sesshin intensive that Daishin was doing. So I put on my thinking cap, and I found out that in Albuquerque, not terribly far from Boulder, there was a week-long sesshin happening during the spring break. So I decided I would trundle down there and sit for a week with people that I did not know. But my teacher and their teacher, both students of Daishin Roshi, both in our lineage. And we have a practice during sesshin called Samu, which is quietly working. One of you, when I came in the Zendo this morning, was doing Samu, sweeping the Zendo, moving meditation. And you said, by the way, what? You remember what you said? You said, I highly recommend it. I've never felt so good. So if you guys take the right approach to washing your bowls, making your bed, doing your laundry, going to work, being of service, it is a spiritual practice. There's many, many koans that redirect us back to the present moment. The most obvious one is when a monk asked Master Joshu, what is the meaning of this life? And Joshu said, have you eaten your lunch? The monk said, yes. And Joshu said, then wash your bowls. That is both literally true and also metaphorically true. If you've made a mess, clean it up. If you've eaten your lunch, wash your bowls. But I was doing Samu. You're supposed to do Samu in silence. It's supposed to be part of your meditation. And Daishin, who was not at the time a teacher, but he was an elder in that group, he was a senior student, he walked up to me as I was cleaning this toilet and he said, where are you from? It's the first words he ever spoke to me. And I said, I don't think we're supposed to talk. And he said, oh, yes, you're right. And he walked away. And I thought about that for a couple days. And I thought, all these koans are teaching us to be spontaneous in the moment and to connect with people and not to be so arbitrary. And yet, this person was being friendly toward me, a visitor, a new person, and I dismissed him because he wasn't following protocol. God bless you. And then I thought, he's a more senior student than me. I wonder if he was testing me in some way. So I chewed on that for a couple days, and then session ended, and I approached him as everyone was milling around after session, and I said, I have a different response to the question you asked me. And he said, what's that? And I gave him a hug. And he said, that's right. You're from right here. Technically, he wasn't a Zen teacher yet, but that's his whole teaching. In a nutshell, you're from right here. So time went on. I did another session with him the following year, and then kind of thought we wouldn't see each other again, but karma is interesting. Karma is a strange thing. I was in residence in Boulder with Daishin Roshi, and he actually had tiers of students. And there was a tier called the training tier, students that are training to become a teacher. Which at present in my Dharma journey, I think I probably wouldn't do that if I had a really busy Zendo. Because I think it creates a stratification where some students naturally sort of feel a little more important, and I don't think that's optimal. But the point was that kind of the more serious students, if you will, were contributing more financially to the Zendo, and were having more access to the teachers, and were actively training to become teachers. And to make a long story short, I had a falling out with Shishin's Dharma successor Shinko, and left that Zendo. And we lived in Portland for a couple years after that, and I studied with some wonderful teachers there. And then we ended up here. Well, there are at present that I know of five Zen teachers in the White Plum lineage living in Sedona, including me. At the time, there were 0. So I kind of wanted to get back on the horse because I've been studying Zen pretty, seriously for a long time, and I really missed it. So Maureen suggested, my wife, that I go up and see Daishin and his teacher Musai, who by then had split off from Jitsudo and had a little Zendo outside of Santa Fe. And like the journey from Albuquerque to Boulder, the journey from Sedona to Santa Fe is just long enough to be a real pain in the ass, but it's just short enough to be doable if you're serious. So I went up there and spent some time with them, and by then Daishin was also a teacher. Musai had been a teacher when I knew them before. And I started working with them as a distance student. And I think I kind of saw Musai as my main teacher. Musai and Daishin were very similar to how Mushin and I are, complementary but very different. One of the students once described that Musai pulls and Daishin pushes. If you think about teachers you've had, there are teachers who kind of like draw you forward with encouragement and there's teachers who kind of push you to be better. They were very different. Musai was a very gentle psychotherapist who was into theater and had directed a lot of plays, and his manner of speaking was very soft and very quiet and he was a very, very slight person, very skinny. Daishin, when he walked in the room, you knew that he was in there. Hey, good to see you, blah, blah, blah. He was this cowboy from Oklahoma who at one point went on an almond butter and blueberries diet because he was trying to control his weight. It did work, but he was a big personality, big personality. Musai, during Sesshin, he would not interact with you outside of the context of Dokusan, meditation instruction. Daishin constantly was talking. It wasn't just that one time when I first met him. And he used to live in Boston, which is where I'm from, and so we're both big Red Sox fans. And I remember this one in particular year where the Red Sox were in the playoffs, and he would just blatantly watch the game on his iPad at night and like come over and show me what was going on in the game. So the idea in Sesshin, you're supposed to like go inward and not like have a lot of stimulation. And he's the freaking teacher. And he's coming over like, hey look, we scored. He was just a character. He was an engraver by profession, and he did this very fine engraving work. Like he could take, the inside of this ring and write a message on the inside of the ring. I don't know how he did it, but he could. And he did a lot of engraving for Val Kilmer, the actor, who some of you are probably familiar with. Doc Holliday, Iceman, Batman for one movie. And I once asked him about, wow, you got to work with Val Kilmer, that's so cool. He was like, he's an asshole. It's like, okay, good to know. That's just how he was, just very off the cuff. So I had been studying with Shishin Shinko. I got about halfway through our koan collection. How many koans are there, Ryan? 600. So I got about halfway through. And at one point I approached Daishin and Musai about resuming my koan practice, which I really love. And they said that would be fine, but I had to start over at the beginning, which was actually a great blessing. At the time, I was like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? This is like 10 years of practice. Are you kidding me? But it was actually excellent because it meant that I had not only Shishin and Shinko's view on those 300 koans, but also Musai and Daishin's. And Dainin Roshi once said that the koans are like looking at a diamond that has 600 edges to it, and you're just looking at it with the prism from different angles. It was actually very helpful. But I had completely abandoned any thoughts of being a teacher. It's not gonna happen. Like, I was on this velocity with Shishin Shinko. I was living at the Zendo, left, got married, had a kid, start career, whatever, it's just not gonna happen. Wasn't even on my mind. So then about 11 or 12, Red Mountain just turned 11, so 11 and a half years ago, I was up visiting him, and we were just sitting in his home office where he did Dokusan. And we were just kind of shooting the bull. We weren't really doing anything important. And he said, and at the time he had cancer, it's worth mentioning, for the third time. He'd beaten it twice, and he had it again, and it looked dire. Like, he's definitely gonna die this time. And he said, the White Plum, which is the group of teachers that descend from Maizumi Roshi, said, they've got this listserv, and when you're a member of the White Plum, you gotta deal with all these emails coming through the listserv all the time about, does anyone have a chant for this? And I gave Dharma transmission to so-and-so, and then 20 people say congratulations to the whole listserv. It's just so annoying. It clogs up my email. I said, oh, okay. He said, well, you're gonna have to decide whether you wanna be in the White Plum or not pretty soon, whether you wanna receive these damn emails. I said, okay. He said, because I'm giving you Dharma transmission. And I just burst into tears. I did not see it coming at all. What was going on for me was that I'd gotten back through, 400 or 500 koans by then, but it was like, I had this notion I was gonna be a teacher, then I didn't, and now my teacher has got terminal cancer, so I'm just a Zen student, it's fine, I had no ambition at all. And I didn't think that it was going to be possible because I hadn't completed koan study. He was going to die before I completed it. So they said, but you just have to promise you'll complete koan study with someone else after I'm gone. Okay. So thus began a 6-month process, very rigorous, of getting all of the materials prepared for Dharma transmission, which normally takes a year. And I won't bore you guys with all of that, but we had to really hustle because we were trying to beat the clock. I mean, he was terminally ill. He had a whole bunch of tumors in his stomach. So mind you, this was 11 years ago and he just died yesterday. So there's more to this story. But at the time, it's like any day now. So we did the week-long process of Dharma transmission, and I honestly didn't know if I would ever see him again when we finished. But about another year went by, and I did complete koan practice with him. And then another year went by. He was supposed to only have 6 months. And his doctor said, why don't we take a look and see what's going on in there? So they did exploratory surgery, which I don't think is something anyone ever wants to do. It's like, we're just gonna kind of pop the hood and see what's going on in there. We don't have any particular agenda or plan. We're gonna like cut you open and see what's happening inside your body. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But his doctor sold him on it by saying, at the very least, I think we can get some of those tumors out and you'll feel better. These tumors are very uncomfortable in your body. So they opened him up, and lo and behold, these dozens of little tiny tumors had congealed into one tumor, which does not happen. And they took the tumor out, and he didn't have cancer for the next 8 or 9 years. Isn't that wild? Like, he was studied at the University of New Mexico. Like, this is not a thing that happens. Now, there's a story about Daishin Roshi, which I will briefly digress to relate, which is that he was once on tour throughout the United States, and one night, someone in the audience asked him, "Is there a God?" Daishin Roshi said, "Of course there's a God. How could there not be a God? Look around at this amazing creation. Of course there's God." And the next night, someone asked him the same question. He said, no God, just you. Just you. Why did he do that? Because he didn't want people to get attached to his answer, because Zen is all about your direct experience. Well, Daishin had the exact same attitude when it came to his tumor. If you asked him one day, he'd say, "Because I fully accepted my fate, my body healed itself. The tumors congealed into one, they were able to remove it, and I have no more cancer because of my Dharma practice." And other times you'd ask him, he'd say, "It doesn't have a goddamn thing to do with it. I have no idea why I survived. Don't ask dumb questions." By the way, his picture is up on the altar there if you want to get a look at him at some point. You can tell he just made a joke, or someone just asked him a dumb question and he said something clever in that picture. Basically, Santa Claus with an attitude. Anyway, he really didn't want us to get too attached to any particular stories. We were just talking about stories with one of you in Dokusan. He didn't want to be this medical marvel, but nor did he want to deny that maybe he was. And we've talked quite a bit the last few talks I've given about don't get too attached to your stories. Maybe you are capable of more than you think. Maybe you're not. Rather than try to solve or answer the question, just keep asking yourself, what am I capable of? What should I do? Rather than try to come up with an answer, keep asking yourself the question. Because questions create possibility, but answers close possibilities. Keep staying open is what you want to do. So he lived for a good long time, and in May of 2023, after flirting with me about it for a couple years, he summoned me to his place and gave me this, which is the brocade rakusu you receive when your teacher recognizes you as a Roshi, which is a senior teacher. Technically it means Zen Master, but I don't like to refer myself that way. I prefer to think of myself as a Zen student who's been at it for a long time. Because once you've mastered something, you have nothing else to learn, right? And I have quite a bit more to learn. But the big thing about Inka Shomei, where you become a Roshi, is your teacher recognizes that he has nothing else to teach you, or she has nothing else to teach you. So after that, we didn't talk as much, and I think partly it was because he was starting to not feel good again. I think partly it was because he felt like his work was done. He told me that on the day that he gave me Inka. Well, I did my job, good luck. He literally said that to me. It wasn't a very touchy-feely thing. Oh, Ryan, I'm so proud of you. You've made me so happy. Thank you for being my student in Dharma. It wasn't that. It was, here you go. Go get him. This is how he was. No pomp, no frills. Nothing extra. And he could be very cruel too. And I never once heard him apologize to anybody for anything. Which just goes to show that the Dharma is perfect, but those of us transmitting it are not. I have many flaws as well. Not apologizing is not one of my flaws, but I have many other flaws. So I went and saw him a couple months ago when it was clear, he kept it a little close to the chest that his cancer was back. He was in a lot of pain, I think, in the last year. I did go up and see him a couple months ago because I wanted him to be cogent when I said goodbye to him, and we had a very nice visit. I debated about whether to go again because it was like, well, we have had a good closure, and I know from being around dying people that too many people around can be kind of hard on them, and I didn't want to be a burden. I also have a lot of responsibilities here, including a dog who had an injury, and wife was out of town, and mother-in-law needs a lot of attention, and work is busy and whatever. But I had my window last week finally, and I took it. I'm really glad I did. He was asleep most of the time I was there, but he did wake up the day that I left, and we did service in his room, the bowing and chanting and everything, and he really liked that. And then everybody left the room, and I just sat there with him, and he just looked at me for a really long time, and then he just put his hands together like that, which really summarizes the whole thing. I see you. You and I are one. This is what Gasho means. We're one. And that's how you live from the heart, is to embrace your life, embrace your difficulties. He loved very strongly. He also could be very difficult, but he didn't hold back. So my commitment to all of you is to not hold back. To whatever extent that you want to learn this Dharma, I will teach it to you. I'll come here every day if you want me to. I don't mind. I don't live far away, and my office is not far away. But I don't chase you guys. So if you want to learn, we'll do it. If you don't want to learn, that's okay. It's my job to meet you where you are, and if you don't want to meet me, then I'll meet you there. But this life is very precious, and it goes by fast. I first went to retreat at Daido's place when I was 19, and I'm now 48, so it's been about 30 years. And I'm actually quite young to be a Roshi. That's something usually that happens later in life, but I'm aware that I don't have unlimited time. And I think I might be the oldest person in the room. I think I'm older than you, right? What's that? Oh, who's counting though? I'm still relatively young, so all of you are younger than me, and it can feel like you have plenty of time, but I would really encourage you to consider what you want your life to be. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of experience do you want to be having? What kind of existence do you want to lead? And start putting your energy into that now. I can tell you this, having been around now several people at the end of their lives. If you have no regrets at the end of your life, if you've mastered one or two or three things, if you've made a really positive impact on people, if you have made an impression, and most importantly, if you've passed on what was given to you, then there's no reason to regret anything. I asked him about a year ago if he had any regrets, and he said no. He said, I've made mistakes, but I don't have any regrets. So I hope it's that way for all of us when that day comes. And I hope that day is a long time from now. And thank you.
Thank you, Josh.